There is this New York Times article that is circulating, and I tell you, this thing is messed up. There is one, Francis Wahome, the chair of the Association of Skilled Migrant Agencies in Kenya, ambaye anafaa kuwa ni yeye anapeleka Wakenya Saudi Arabia. Aliulizwa, mbona Wakenya wanafungiwa kwa nyumba na Waarabu? And this was his answer, that you close the door for your dog because you own it. Yani tunalinganishwa na mbwa. Your rights are only equal to a dog. Akaulizwa, mbona Waarabu wanarusha Wakenya nje ya dirisha? Akajibu, ati it's not the Arabs who are throwing Kenyans out of the window. It's Kenyans ambao wanajaribu kuruka nje ya dirisha, ati wanajaribu kutumia shuka. But they miscalculate. Yani we are foolish enough to miscalculate. We don't know, tuko hiyo ligi ati we are not able to calculate. And to quote him, this is what he said. Ati, women, they do not know how to calculate. That's how they view us. And if our government has chosen to work with these people, that shows you how our government views us. The same Wahome was asked, why are Kenyans being mistreated in Saudi Arabia? And his answer was, they are insufficiently servile. Servile means slavery. His answer means that we are not slaves enough. They want us to be slaves. Ati ndo tusikuwe mistreated in Saudi Arabia. We are not slaves enough. That's why our women are being mistreated in Saudi Arabia. Tell you, this thing is messed up. And that article raises very serious issues in regard to remuneration. It says that a Filipino worker earns $400 a month with standby evacuation in case of emergencies. But a Kenyan worker earns only half of that. And in case of emergencies, nobody's there to save them. They are forced to run to the streets or die. That's where we are. And why is the government not helping us? It's because the same government officials are reaping big from this labor migration. The New York Times reports that the president's family is reaping big from insurance for these staffers. The Solicitor General, who is supposed to be on the side of Kenyans and speaking for Kenyans, has a staffing agency for taking Kenyans to Saudi Arabia. The government spokesperson has a staffing agency for taking Kenyans to Saudi Arabia. So who is going to help us? We, the dogs.
Wadau, musikuje Saudi. Huku kazi ni kukuliwa na madogi. In fact, hata ndo nimetoka kuipatia session. So hata sijavaa bra, ndo nimetoka kuipatia second session. Nilipia ya kwanza asubuhi, alafu sasa nimebakisha session nyingine nitaipatia jioni. Alafu sasa juna mkanga ikiwa honi na mkanga around kitu 3. Lazima niweke alarm 3 morning niamke niende nikasetie dogi. Alafu unajua nini unibamba? Hizi dogi zote kula fiti kuliko hata maexo wetu. So, usikuje Saudi. Kazi huku ni kuosha umbwa, kukuliwa na umbwa, kuipatia food, kukula nayo kwa sahani moja, na sitaki uteseke mtu wangu. Kaa tu nyumbani, kaa tu nyumbani, usikuje huku juu huku na kuja kukuliwa na dogi, sawa? Usikuje huku by the way. Mwanaume amekuwa Kenya, haezi handle dem mwenye amekuja hii Gulf akapiga kazi miaka 2, 3, 4. Kwa mechi haezi kumhandle. Same na mwanamke amekuwa Kenya, haezi handle mwanaume mwenye amekuja huku akapiga kazi miaka 4, 3, 2. Hao watu kuna transition fulani wakifika huku they go through. Kuna kitu inafanyikiaga mwili za watu ukishafika huku. Na hiyo inakuwaga nile amekaa peke yake hadi amejua kuexplore mwili yake, hadi amejijua, hadi amejua tu vitu vingine tunye hakuwa anajua. Sasa akirudi huko hivyo Kenya, unless apatane na guide mwenzake ama na ex-Gulf mwenzake ama na team Gulf mwenzake ama anyone mwenye alikuwa outside the country mwenye pia amekaa bila hiyo kitu mtu anaelewa, au tu ndio anaweza toshelezana. Someone who is willing kufanya vitu zingine bila kujudge mtu mwingine. Otherwise msee mwenye ati ameachwa home, ati ni wagidhomo, bwanako alikuacha akakuja huko amekuja kazi, trust you me, akirudi wewe ni mwanaume mwingine very different. Huwezi kumhandle unless umfanyie vitu zingine ndio umfikishe mahali inafaa. Huwezi kumhandle. Same na madem. Same na madem.
Nadanganyana ama nasema ukweli? Si ni ukweli? Yeah, it is true. Na hizo vitu zinakuaga tu the more unakaa huku ukiwa peke yako. Unaona hiyo loneliness, ukiwa tu huku ukiwa peke yako, unagunduaga vitu kwa mwili yako zenye hata ukuwahi jua zinakuanga. Hiyo ndio kitu ina happenigi. Same na wanaume pia. Inakuaga tu ni hivyo. Wakikaa huko hivyo kwa makazi, mtu hana bibi huko tu ni kazi kurudi, kwenda kazi kurudi. Anaanza kujua vitu hakuwa amejua. Vitu tu mingi tu zenye sisi wenye tushaikuja huku tu sisi pekee yetu ndio tunaelewa. Wase wako homa hawezi elewa unless pia wewe tu ukuje huku ukae miaka 2-3 utaelewa. Na wacha nikwambie, the more amekaa huku the more inakuwa ngumu kumhandle. Walai, mtu amepiga miaka 4 miaka 5, huyo anataka very few wenye wako home wanaweza handle watu wenye wamekuja huku. Wale manotorious. Lakini these others, mtu wako akikuacha home eti amekuja huku, wewe jua tu story imelala. Hata kuwa the same tena. Haizi kuwa the same vile ulikuwa unamjua. Either ni dem ama ni jamaa. Wanachenjigi. Tunachenjigi kabisa. Hata ile ni ile kabisa uko willing kurudi kwa mtu wako, lakini ukifika hata yeye he's not the same. Kabisa mwili inachenjigi kabisa. So nimewaibia siri, nimewaambia.
President Ruto benefits from Kenyan house helps in Saudi Arabia. According to an article by the New York Times, Saudi Arabian employers have confiscated the passports of some Kenyan house helps. They have even denied them salaries, food, and some employers have even beaten some workers, and others have even been unalived. However, instead of demanding that the Saudi government protect these Kenyan workers, President William Ruto promised to send even more workers more quickly and less prepared than before. According to an investigation by the New York Times, President Ruto and his family benefits directly from this industry. Recruitment companies are required to have insurance to cover the costs of bringing Kenyan workers home in emergencies. According to Mr. Patrick Mburu, who is a lobbyist, the government has been encouraging recruiting companies to buy policies from a company called Africa Merchant Assurance. And corporate documents show that President Ruto's wife and daughter are the biggest shareholders of Africa Merchant Assurance Company. According to Mr. Mburu, Africa Merchant Assurance has never paid out any claim to rescue a distressed worker abroad. In fact, the Kenyan government has positioned Kenyan workers as among the cheapest and the least protected workers in the marketplace. The Kenyan government can control the working conditions for Kenyans in Saudi Arabia. This is because Saudi Arabia sets different employment standards for people from different countries, and Saudi Arabia negotiates with each country individually. For example, a Filipino house help living in Saudi Arabia earns around $400 a month, and in emergencies, they can be rescued by a team, they can be taken to a safe house, and they can be safely returned home. However, a Kenyan house help living in Saudi Arabia earns around $240 a month, and that is a figure that Kenya has never renegotiated in the last 7 years. Moreover, if Kenyan house helps are abused in Saudi Arabia, they are not guaranteed of any protection. They are usually sent from the police to the recruiters to the Kenyan embassy in Riyadh, which is the Saudi capital, and some even end up homeless. According to New York Times, the CS of Labor, Alfred Mutua, said that if they negotiated better salaries for Kenyans, the Saudi employers would turn to cheaper workers, and recruiters in Kenya usually worry about losing business to Burundi, Tanzania, or Ethiopia. According to records, 1 out of 10 registered staffing companies in Kenya is owned by either a former or a current political figure or official. These staffing companies earn money by recruiting workers in Kenya and then selling those contracts to Saudi agencies, and then the Saudi agencies allocate work to the Kenyans. Francis Wahome, who is the chairman of the Association of Skilled Migrant Agencies of Kenya, says that you must have a license in order to open a staffing company in Kenya, and the only people who can be able to get those licenses are people who are in government. Unfortunately, Mr. Wahome also blamed Kenyan house helps for being abused in Saudi Arabia, and he also denied that they were being thrown from windows by their Saudi Arabian employers. He said that some of the women tried to escape the employers through the windows using bed sheets. However, they usually fell because they misjudged the height. And this is what he said, and I quote, "You know women, they don't know how to calculate." And when he was asked why the Kenyan workers were locked indoors in the first place, this is what he said, and I quote, "You close the door for your dog because it is your property." Hannah Njeri is a 36-year-old mother from rural Kenya who has never used any electric appliances before, and she was sent to work as a house help in Saudi Arabia in 2021. She did not understand any Arabic languages, and she did not understand the instructions that she was being given by her employer. Her Saudi Arabian employer became frustrated and threatened to beat her. And one day when she was cleaning the house, her cesarean section incision reopened. Her employer and the Saudi Arabian staffing agency denied her medical care, and she did not know who to call or what her rights were. And she was only able to return back to Kenya after human rights activists publicized her case, and they also raised funds for her plane ticket back home. The Kenyan government has been receiving official reports for years that Kenyan workers were being sent to Saudi Arabia without preparation. Kenyan lawmakers proposed a bill to comprehensively train Kenyan workers before sending them abroad and to jail the recruiters who evaded this particular law. However, in late 2023, President Ruto announced his plan to send 500,000 workers to Saudi Arabia, and his ultimate goal was to send 1 million workers overseas annually. And later, the government withdrew the labor bill, which was supposed to prepare Kenyans who were going to work abroad.
Mido nacheza mdhamini si nakaona dai moshi tazivuta vuta, limit ya fuliza imeongezeka nikoma, neza shika jag na kanudu sie, nacheza kiroro, neza fika soko, turirime mdani meditation naki, shusha kibandaski cha podonde neza, rada nama, vuta izoma.